Hey, what's up, viewer? Thank you for taking a look at this video. I'm going to throw in one more hour on day 3, hour 6, and I'm going to focus on blitzing through a couple things. I have a couple ideas for finishing up the scanning system, possibly integrating into the text system, diversifying the random spawn system, which would encourage perhaps some shader work on the planets. Maybe there's some UI generation through code to do some screen space signatures in the event the scan frequency is too low. Which would require some random spawns of a smaller signature radius as well. So there's a decent amount of stuff. I'm going to try to use this last hour here to push through as much of that as I can and see what I can do. Trying to remember here, where was this saved at? It was under the UI builder, but I suppose I haven't defined a component for it. Which effectively would make some sense. So underneath this, let's make a on a behavior, and we will just call this active selection readout. I do believe is what it was called in the UI builder. Sorry, there's some compiling going on here. Visual Studio's locking up just a tad bit here, which is locking me out of Unity. Well, it happens every once in a while. And the code will need to reference the UI elements and open and close the left element, activate, deactivate on the button press, update depending on active selection change, and a few other things. So this is going to need our UI document. And in start, I need to initialize the UI document with the root. And we've got essentially another visual element, which was essentially we can call it readout, and the other one was a button. Excuse me, a button for toggling readout. Or toggle readout visibility, perhaps. We should probably name them the same thing that it was named in the builder. Which we did not actually name this one. So we'll call this the readout. This was toggle active selection readout. So we can just call it toggle readout then. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here for a second. I was going to set it up to click the button, and then clicking the button needs to definitely going to set the readout.set enabled. We have to do the old not bool trick, which I've slightly forgotten, but we have to say not. I'm wondering if there might be an easier way to do this though. When you click the button, the state of the readout needs to, so let me see if it's enabled. not sure what the difference is, but the idea is essentially this equals not readout enable itself. Except for it's complaining here. Oh, I can't assign enable itself. Well then, what would the readout... Essentially what I'm trying to do is say set enabled, and we would use a bool or a function or something, but it has to get set to the opposite of what it is now. So I suppose that, like I was saying, we could say set enabled to readout dot enabled self. So it's the opposite of if it's enabled or not. And that essentially toggles it, I do believe. Anytime the button is clicked. So let me see if this works. Right, so I forgot to place the active selection readout component on this, and then I forgot that I can grab this component by saying get component UI document. I don't have to have that particular public reference. I can also, now that it's actually on here, it will also run this time I hit play mode. So I should be able to toggle it. There's also a shot that there could be some kind of hotkey arrangement to... Okay, so that's close, but not exactly what I was going for. So that's not exactly what I meant by it's toggling properly, but it's the wrong property. Disabling it isn't. I guess I need to what? So what do I need to do? Set its width to 0 or something? Visible. That might work. Okay, so that's another step closer, but it's going to, I'm just going to have to collapse its width or something. If I do this, I was under the impression that I could turn off the display and it would move that over. So there is a display style, apparently. And the idea would be that turning it off would close and open the panel. So a display property does exist in there somewhere. Even though the readout is giving me a, it's not giving me, that's a style.display perhaps. Okay. Dot. So I'm not sure about this. So flex or none is a little different because display is a integer. So it's toggling an integer between 0 and 1, which is pretty similar to toggling a true or false. Kind of the easy thing would be to use a ternary. So I can just do a case for each of them. And then I have to remember how to do this correctly. The toggle readout. Yeah, I'm just not quite sure here. Toggling, it seems like toggling a true or false should be easy enough. But you have to have a true or false value to toggle. Otherwise you are going back and forth between a 0 and a 1. So essentially what I would imagine is there would have to be a Boolean for we would, for simplicity, be able to call it toggled. And at the beginning it's, we'll say it's true means it's open. And we essentially have to come down here and say toggled, but toggled equals not toggled, more or less. So maybe this has to be cached outside the start, but we will see. Alright, and almost perfect. Just need to change that code that made it turn itself off or whatever. So I want it to be enabled and its display could actually toggle as well if necessary. So now it actually should just open and close. And it would be cool to maybe put it on a spacebar or something. Alright, so that's pretty straightforward. So now you have this going on. There's one other thing I would like to do. Just for a smidge of I don't even have the right word for it, but it'll just add a nice little dynamic to it. Whenever it toggles, I want the readouts like text. Maybe styled, not text. So as a visual element, it doesn't necessarily have a text element. Toggle readout is a button. Maybe that's why I'm messing it up. It's a button.text. So instead of from readout, I'm actually trying to use toggle readout.text equals, and it's essentially another ternary, so toggled, and if it is true symbolizing on, essentially the idea was to go like this, but now that I'm thinking about it, the text is going from left to right, so this isn't going to point in the direction I thought it was. So this would have to be it, but the other side of it is actually not as cool as I thought, which was 2 V's. Let's see though what it looks like. Yeah, it looks like I forgot something. Alright, so now let's see if I can toggle this. Add like little nodule put on the idea is that it's an arrow. It's an arrow on the button. and then it switches directions depending on if it opens or closes the panel. And they're actually already going in the... So, if that's true, then I can do the original idea, which was to do something like this. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to do, but it is way too small. So I'm going to see if I can buff the size of it. For which, I might as well just come into the UI builder and jump on the toggle readout and change its text values. Make sure that the color is black for the text. Bold the text, and this will bump the size up to 16. And see how this looks. It doesn't initialize properly, but that's a little better. Maybe have them going like this. Or is that actually might be what happens if I add a couple more. It's kind of weird how it doesn't initialize properly, but I guess I can make that happen by going like this. Oh, it does go like that. I was hoping it would go that. I can't go like that. Okay, that's pretty cool. And it would have to toggle on the other side. So how would I get that in as a space? I can't remember. What was it? /n. And I think that technically is how you can draw that into the toggler. Darn it. No, that wasn't. Oh, okay, so I think well, to be honest, I'm not exactly sure, but that almost is correct. I thought /n worked properly. I did say n/, I didn't say /n. The heck. And technically there isn't a space there. Okay, so /n, not n/. Darn it, that's also not correct. Correct. So the easy thing will just be to use one of them for both. Because I am forgetting how to do this part where I incorporate a return into the... Let me just take a look here. Okay, so trying to think what I was going to write. What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to insert return onto within string, basically. I thought it was /n. Oh, they did the /n. I guess I should stipulate C#. So that's saying I'm doing /n incorrectly. I'm supposed to go like this. That's actually like... Oh, that's not breaking, I'm not sure actually. Three arrows is better than one arrow. So I give it a shot. Alright. So that's pretty cool. So I guess I can leave that be for now, but that's just a little bit of zing for the visual on the visual side of things. It's not much, but it helps a little bit. A new active selection is going to be what changes what's in that panel. So I have to decide, do I want to how much do I need to put into this panel? That actually reminds me. There's something I wanted to change. I wanted to change the I guess basically all I wanted to do is change the star shader to be more or less swap this part. So if I'm trying to swap that part, let me see if I can just swap the Fresnel effect here. So that's a little weird. Oh, okay, so this is suggesting it's I'm actually not sure. what was it doing? It was like, it had this in here for this. Alright, I think it was going like this. Alright, so maybe I need to flip the colors around or something. Trying to color the sphere. But then apply the Fresnel effect. So it has a Fresnel effect this directly. Now what happens if I 1 minus this? I guess that's not the same thing, is it? Yeah, I'm just not sure, to be honest. If it is the active selection, maybe what if I flipped it around as white to yellow? And then brought back the 1 minus node, actually. Give this a shot here. Still not the coloring that I'm trying to find here. Okay, so it's defaulting to false. So if it's not active selection, it looks like this. If it is the active selection, the Fresnel effect needs to replace the... It just needs to replace the edges with a white value. So maybe there's a second replace color node. Essentially, I was trying to change white to white, aren't I? No, it's not exactly correct. Maybe if the edge is supposed to be white, but the inside is supposed to be yellow. See what happens if I go like this. So maybe from yellow to white, I don't think that makes sense. Guess that's doesn't make sense either, so let's try this one then. This is almost correct. There's no fuzziness. And the range is just a little strange. And it is white, but it's still a little weird. What if I went straight for null into here? No, that's just not quite the same thing, is it? I'm just gonna match these yellows. So in this instance, then we can say true. And we might end up bumping up the emissions value because it's the sunlight. Although it might not allow for a... I might have to use an HDR color field. So let me see how this looks. Alright, so the sun is yellow, but it is not bright, so I'm just gonna go back into the graph and add an HDR color range for this. Or HDC. No, not an HDC color. Color. It has to be set to HDR mode, and we want both of these colors to be the same color. And that color is yellow for this particular sun. Mathematically accurate. Oops. But the intensity we want to put to at least +1. Probably +2. Probably +4 in the long run. Because we can use global illumination in the HDRP to use the sun as the spherical light source using global illumination. Since we have emissions coming off of it. So let's see if it's too shiny or not. I don't have an exposure thing set up on the camera. Okay, so that kind of feels like a sun. A little better. And if I run in here and take a look at the... I guess it doesn't look as good. Let's see if I can just zoom in. I'm not sure if this planet actually has any emission light hitting it or not. I'm curious. Very likely. Oops, let me find... Sorry, I meant to open up the shader graph here. I'm just gonna come in here and say +2 on this. Basically just make it 4. And I'm going to try and illuminate that sphere a little bit with sunlight. Alright, so that's got a nice bloom on it even. And I can't really tell if it's illuminating this at all. Active selection is backwards on that one. It's a little weird how it selects the sun like that. You can kind of barely tell that it's getting selected. It would need to be a darker ring, to be honest. And this one just, as a planet, it would have to take light from the sun. But I don't know how to do the proper texture for wrapping the circle. So something to avoid making too much detail on the planet surfaces. The sun's pretty easy, but the planets are a little tougher for that. And I guess I understand that we didn't actually change this one. So it's a little strange that I'm insisting that's a little darker on the ring. All right, I'll give this one a shot. I'll give this one a shot. See if it's any better. I don't know. I don't know. It almost kind of looks like it's a little different as. I guess it kind of signifies it's selected. I don't know. Maybe the player will get that part. For this one, the idea would, I guess I could just have like 5 colors for different planet types. So like red could be a lava planet, or orange could be a lava planet. Blue could be like an ocean planet. Green could be a I guess you could just call it a continental planet. And then white could be an Arctic planet. And then you're looking at like a desert planet as well, maybe with yellow or something. And I could do different sizes of planets in biomes with a few definitions. I'd have to plug them into the random spawn generation system though. I'm sorry, I'm a little stumped on where I'm trying to go here. I'm still in debate on whether or not to stack the data in the overview or use the UI generation object. I also have to name the planets and the sun. Potentially figure out a way to get like a higher definition render image of them. Maybe enter some local information. And have some scanning details. I could also pass all of the image lore and then I guess it would be like maybe scanning details, but I could also do the UI thing. And that would allow the player to just at a first glance see that there's like a couple signatures that need to be more specific for scanning, for the purpose of scanning. And then if the player is interested in something, they can click on it for more information. So they can click on the sun. This will come open, and it'll have to give like, it'll have to give the name of the sun, which the plan for that is to do that within like, that has to do with which nebula of the galaxy it's in to a certain extent. Like different sectors will be able to name their suns by the sector they're in. And I won't have to like have custom, there won't be custom sun names or system names, they'll just be chopped up throughout like kind of a coordinate system. And so then it's basically just writing information about it. So I just don't really feel like this is as prototypical as just getting the scanning information. But then I'm starting to wonder, does that mean the resources are displayed as a UI element, or I'm not really sure. It would be easy enough to just put the name in and then put perhaps the quote-unquote type in, and any selection can then give some kind of name, some kind of type. It can also give an, it can also just give a signature tier, which would allow the scan system to be set to a certain tier. And to scan down the signature. And that would essentially eliminate the need to have the UI generation. Well, I guess I don't know it wouldn't, because if the scan's too small, it's going to have to say that there's a signature there. But I guess the plan was to turn on the renderer, but with transparency or something, to symbolize that it's not completely scanned down or something. Either that or the signature UI thing. One way or the other, there needs to be a clickable object. And if I just make the game object itself clickable, it could render a little asteroid model for an asteroid field, and a little gas cloud model for gas, like a gas cloud. So it is scanning, and making the planets emerge. Man, I just know that getting into like details about the planets is going to start asking for like logical elements. So I'm trying to be very careful about how I proceed here. It's kind of the same thing if I use an asteroid or a gas cloud. So the prototypical thing would be to just use spheres still for all of them, but I could perhaps make them smaller spheres. For things that are harder to scan down. So it's really starting to get into the kind of the random generation system. Because that's where it would be nice to randomize the size. And I can like randomize the planet colors and stuff. And I'm actually going to do another cosmetic thing, which is I'm going to, and I know it doesn't like that I'm doing it this way, but there is a legacy way to use a skybox object or essentially a cube map yeah, I'm not sure where I put it. Pretty sure I do have it somewhere though. Somewhere I've got a I guess it's in here somewhere. This thing. This is plugged into something. Maybe the camera? It's just sky default normal. The global volume profile has an HDR sky. So I need to go back to the game scene. And I have to grab this scene's global volume profile, which I'm not quite sure there is one created yet. So I have to come in here and like generate a global volume. Or, yeah, I don't have one in this. I'm going to have to, I understand what I have to do, and the idea is to put a skybox of stars in the background as another way to spruce up the state of the prototype. So, I apologize, I did not get a whole lot more done on this. I'm still not perfect with shaders and stuff. It's tough to learn that stuff. Kind of modeling out what you're trying to accomplish. And I'm a little indecisive on the info panel, even though it's got a cool opening and closing option. So A little bit of cosmetic stuff. Didn't get as much done as I probably wanted to, but I still made a few strides, so it's not too bad. Thanks for checking this out. See you in the next one.